Chosen one. Have you ever felt the heaviness in your chest at 3 a.m., like heaven itself was holding its breath for you? Have you ever wondered why you're still here when everyone said your time was up? Have you ever questioned if God forgot your address while blessing everyone else around you? Stop right there. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about being too old, too late, too forgotten. This Saturday, this very Saturday approaching, isn't just another day circled on your calendar. It's a cosmic doorway that opens only once in a lifetime, and most people will walk right past it without ever knowing what they missed. But not you. You're here for a reason. For months now, you've felt it, haven't you? That restless stirring in your spirit, that unexplainable knowing that something massive is about to shift. That quiet whisper in your soul saying, "Get ready." You thought it was your imagination. You thought it was wishful thinking. You thought maybe you were losing your mind. You weren't losing anything. You were receiving everything. Heaven has been downloading instructions into your spirit, preparing you for a divine appointment that most people your age are told they've already missed. Society whispers that your season is over, that your dreams died with your youth, that it's time to fade quietly into the background. But God is about to prove them devastatingly wrong. This Saturday carries a frequency that will either awaken what's been dormant in your bloodline for decades, or it will pass you by like every other ordinary day. The choice, and it is a choice, rests entirely in your hands. Before I go deeper into this revelation that's been burning in my spirit for weeks, I need to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But listen carefully, chosen one. What's about to happen this Saturday has been written in the stars since before you took your first breath. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every moment you've felt invisible, it's all been leading to this threshold moment. The enemy knows what day this island. That's why you've been under attack. That's why the depression hit harder this week. That's why relationships feel strained and your peace feels fragile. Hell is throwing everything it has at you, because it knows if you step through this cosmic doorway with eyes wide open, your breakthrough will be so massive, so undeniable, that it will shatter generational curses and birth generational blessings. Before this Saturday ends, something in your life will shift forever if you pay attention. If you're already feeling this stirring in your spirit, if something deep inside you just whispered, yes, type 777 inches the comments right now. Let heaven see you're awake. Let the angels know you're ready. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why Saturday isn't just another day, it's your divine appointment with destiny. Why does every morning feel like you're carrying invisible boulders on your shoulders? Why does your own reflection look back at you like a stranger who's lived through too much? Why do the walls of your home echo with memories of voices that will never call your name again? You've buried spouses who promised to grow old with you. You've buried dreams that once made your heart race at 2 a.m. You've sat at kitchen tables with bills spread like battlefields, wondering how Social Security stretched so thin when your needs feel so heavy. The mailbox brings more medical bills than birthday cards. The phone rings with appointment reminders instead of grandchildren's laughter. Your adult children are too busy building their own empires to notice you're disappearing piece by piece. They call on holidays with hurried voices and distracted hearts, checking boxes instead of checking souls. That church pew where you've sat for 30 years feels emptier every Sunday, surrounded by faces you barely recognize anymore. The pastor speaks to a generation that texts through sermons, while you hunger for the deep, soul-shaking word that once set your spirit ablaze. And those doctors' reports. Oh, those reports that pile up like autumn leaves, each one whispering the same message. You're running out of time. High blood pressure. diabetes, arthritis that makes every step a prayer for mercy, pills organized in weekly containers that mock the dreams you once organized in leather journals. You've watched friends fade away one by one until your contact list reads like a memorial service. The grocery store cashier doesn't remember your name anymore. The bank teller looks through you like you're invisible. Society has convinced you that you're a burden, a relic, a fading photograph in the album of relevance. But listen to me carefully, dear one. What you've interpreted as abandonment was actually appointment. What you've called rejection was actually redirection. Every door that slammed in your weathered face wasn't God saying no to you. It was God saying not yet to a blessing, too magnificent for your former capacity to contain. Think about the vineyards of Napa Valley, just hours north of here. The master vintner doesn't apologize when he prunes the vines. He doesn't weep when he cuts away what looks healthy to untrained eyes, because he knows something the vine doesn't understand yet. Pruning isn't punishment. It's preparation for a harvest that will astound the world. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Notice it doesn't say plans I had for you when you were young and beautiful. It says plans I have, present tense, active, alive, operating right now in your 70-year-old bones, your 80-year-old spirit, your 90-year-old dreams that refuse to die. Every no you've received was God's hidden yes, echoing from Saturday's breakthrough. Every closed door was Him clearing space in your life, removing the clutter of the merely good so the spectacularly great could finally fit. That job you lost at 62, it was blocking the ministry that's about to begin at 82. That relationship that ended in betrayal, it was God protecting your heart for a love story that will rewrite your family's legacy. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. This heaviness you feel, this bone-deep exhaustion that makes you wonder if you can take another step, it's not weakness. It's divine anesthesia. Heaven is preparing you for spiritual surgery so radical, so complete, that your natural systems had to be slowed down, quieted down, so the great physician could work without interference. What you called depression was heaven recalibrating your spirit. What you labeled as loneliness was God isolating you from voices that would have talked you out of Saturday's miracle. What you interpreted as being forgotten was actually being hidden, protected, prepared in the secret place until your moment of unveiling arrived. Romans 8:28 doesn't say all things work together for good for the young, the strong, the beautiful. It says, all things, every pill you swallow, every tear you've cried into your coffee, every night you've lain awake, wondering if anyone would miss you if you were gone, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And you, chosen one, are called, not were called, are called. Right now, today, this Saturday, the enemy has been whispering lies in your hearing aid, telling you your season is over, your influence is finished, your dreams are dead. But he's a liar and the father of lies, because while he was busy convincing you that you're irrelevant, God was busy making you indispensable. While hell was telling you to fade away, heaven was preparing to unveil you in ways that will leave your own family speechless. This transition you've been walking through, losing people, losing places, losing pieces of yourself you thought were permanent, it wasn't breakdown, it was breakthrough preparation. The master sculptor doesn't apologize for chipping away marble. He knows that every strike of the hammer is revealing the masterpiece that was always hidden inside. Saturday is coming, and with it, the unveiling of who you've always been, beneath the weight of what the world tried to make you carry. But first, you need to understand why this particular Saturday carries a frequency that could change everything if you're awake enough to receive it. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones, people who've carried His fire for 70, 80, 90 years, sitting in their living rooms believing the lie that their season is over, believing that the isolation they've felt, the doors that have slammed shut, the friends who've walked away, believing all of that was evidence of God's abandonment. But what if I told you something that would shatter that deception forever? What if I told you that every person who rejected you was actually protecting your destiny? What if every door that closed was God saying, "Not that way, this way"? What if the loneliness you've endured wasn't punishment but preparation for Saturday's unveiling? Listen to me, dear one. Separation always comes before elevation. Always. And the deeper the separation, the higher the elevation God has planned. Think about Joseph. Genesis 37 tells us he was 17 when God gave him dreams of ruling nations. 17. Young, excited, full of vision. But what happened next? His own brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. For 13 years, 13 long years, Joseph sat in dungeons wondering if God had forgotten his promise. Can you imagine? 13 years of watching the sun rise and set through prison bars. 13 years of wondering, God, did I hear you wrong? Did I misunderstand the dream? But here's what Joseph couldn't see from that cell. Every day of imprisonment was building the character he'd need to save nations. Every betrayal was developing the wisdom he'd need to forgive his enemies. Every lonely night was teaching him to hear God's voice above the noise of his circumstances. When Pharaoh finally called for Joseph, he didn't just get promoted, he got handed the keys to the ancient world's economy. Genesis 41-41 records Pharaoh saying, "I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." From prisoner to prime minister, in one conversation. That's not luck, beloved. That's divine positioning. The pit wasn't his punishment. It was his preparation. And you sitting there wondering why your golden years feel more like lonely years. You need to understand something that will revolutionize how you see your story. Every friend who couldn't understand your walk with God and drifted away, every family member who mocked your faith, every church that made you feel invisible, they weren't rejecting you. They were disqualifying themselves from your next chapter. Because here's the truth that'll shake you to your core. You can't take everyone with you where God is calling you to go. Look at Moses. Exodus 7-7 tells us he was 80 years old, 80 when God called him to confront Pharaoh. The world would have put him in a retirement home, but God put a staff in his hand and said, "Now you're ready." Why? Because it took 80 years to burn away Moses' pride, his self-reliance, his need to prove himself. The man who fled Egypt as a murderer returned as a deliverer, but only after 40 years of wilderness separation. The wilderness wasn't wasting his time, it was refining his character. And Anna, the prophetess, Luke 2:37, tells us she was 84 years old, widowed for most of her life, spending every day in the temple when most people would have given up hope. 84. But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, she was the first to proclaim the Messiah to all Jerusalem. Her decades of faithful waiting weren't meaningless. They were strategic positioning for the most important announcement in human history. Do you see the pattern? God's greatest assignments come to those who've been refined by fire, tested by time, and proven faithful in the dark. You are gold in the fire, chosen one. And God isn't burning you up, He's burning everything off you that isn't pure. Every relationship that couldn't handle your calling, every opportunity that wasn't aligned with your purpose, every season that felt like death, all of it was the refiner's fire, removing what would have contaminated your next level. The isolation you felt? That was God creating space for something so magnificent that it required you to be completely empty of everything that wasn't Him. The silence you've endured, that was heaven holding its breath while your miracle was being positioned. But here's where it gets controversial, and I need you to hear this with your spirit, not your emotions. The church lied to you about aging. Society programmed you to believe that 70 is the beginning of decline, that 80 is too old for impact, that 90 means your race is run. That's not just wrong, it's demonic. You have authority that 20-year-olds can't buy. You have wisdom that 40-year-olds can't Google. You have faith that 60-year-olds are still developing. The gray in your hair isn't a sign of weakness, it's a crown of glory, earned through decades of faithful endurance. Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." That crown wasn't given to you to hide under a hat. It was given to you to wear with authority. The younger generation needs what you carry. They need to see that faith doesn't weaken with age, it strengthens. They need to witness that God doesn't retire his generals, he promotes them. They need to understand that your wrinkles are actually wisdom lines, carved by decades of watching God move mountains. Every year you've lived, every storm you've weathered, every mountain you've climbed, has been depositing spiritual authority in your account. And Saturday, this Saturday, is when heaven starts releasing dividends on your faithfulness. The separation you've endured wasn't random. It was strategic. God was clearing your life of everything and everyone who would have diminished the magnitude of what he's about to reveal. Because what's coming through that cosmic doorway on Saturday is so powerful, so transformative, that it could only be entrusted to someone who's been proven faithful through decades of preparation. If you know in your spirit that your delay wasn't denial, that your pain was actually preparation, declare it in the comments right now. My pain was preparation. Let heaven hear your declaration. Let the angels witness your revelation. Because separation is the proof you were set apart. And Saturday isn't your punishment, it's your unveiling. But what exactly is being unveiled? What has heaven been preparing in secret that requires such careful positioning, such intentional separation, such divine timing? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you about this Saturday will sound impossible to your natural mind, but your spirit already knows it's true. This isn't about your front porch. This isn't about your neighborhood street. This isn't about avoiding some cosmic catastrophe that's going to rain down from the sky. No, beloved. When I say do not go outside on Saturday, I'm talking about something far more dangerous than anything the physical world could throw at you. I'm talking about stepping outside the alignment God has been building around your life for months. You see, there are moments in Scripture when obedience to what seems like a simple instruction becomes the difference between blessing and catastrophe. Think about Noah. For 120 years, he built that ark while his neighbors mocked him. The sky was clear, the weather was perfect. But when God said, "Get inside and stay inside," Noah didn't question the logic. He obeyed the voice. And when the rain began to fall, every person who had laughed at his obedience was suddenly desperate for his protection. Think about the Israelites in Egypt. God told them to stay inside their homes, to mark their doorposts with blood, to trust that this one night of obedience would determine their family's future. Exodus 12:22 declares, "None of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a commandment that carried the weight of life and death. The Israelites who obeyed lived. The Egyptians who didn't, well, you know how that story ends. Now hear me clearly. This Saturday carries that same weight of divine instruction. But here's what most people won't understand. The outside you're being warned against isn't a physical location. It's a spiritual position. For weeks now, God has been aligning the invisible forces around your life. He's been positioning angels, redirecting circumstances, closing doors that would lead to dead ends, and opening pathways that your natural eye can't even see yet. But this alignment, this divine orchestration, requires something from you that the world will call foolishness. It requires you to stay inside the frequency of faith when everything around you screams doubt. It requires you to remain in the posture of expectancy when your circumstances suggest defeat. It requires you to resist the gravitational pull of your old patterns, your old reactions, your old way of handling pressure. Saturday is the day the enemy will test whether you've truly changed, or if you're still operating from the same broken systems that kept you bound for decades. Let me paint you the picture your spirit needs to see. This Saturday, the world will look ordinary. The sun will rise like it always does. Traffic will flow. People will shop. Life will appear normal. But in the unseen realms, in the courts of heaven, where your destiny is being written, something unprecedented is happening. The ledger is shifting. Every prayer you've whispered in secret is being converted into visible breakthrough. Every tear you've cried in solitude is being transformed into joy that will overflow your cup. Every night you've wrestled with despair is being rewritten as preparation for the miracle that's been building momentum in the spiritual realm. But here's the part that will determine everything. You cannot step outside the obedience that positioned you for this moment. What does that mean practically? It means Saturday is not the day to entertain doubt. It's not the day to rehearse your failures. It's not the day to have that conversation with the person who always talks you out of believing God. It's not the day to scroll through social media and compare your hidden struggles with everyone else's highlight reels. Saturday is the day silence becomes confirmation. If you step outside the sacred space of trust, if you let anxiety convince you that nothing is happening, if you let impatience drive you back to old coping mechanisms, if you let fear whisper that this word isn't for you, you will miss the visitation. And chosen one, some visitations only come once in a lifetime. Think about Mary when the angel Gabriel appeared to her. Luke 1:26 tells us it was in the 6th month, a specific time, a divine appointment. But what if Mary had been too busy to listen? What if she had dismissed the messenger because the message sounded too impossible? What if she had stepped outside the posture of, "Let it be unto me according to your word"? The salvation of the world hung on one young woman's willingness to stay inside the realm of divine possibility when everything in her natural mind screamed that this couldn't be real. Your Saturday moment carries that same weight. Not for the world, but for your world, for your family line, for your legacy, for the generations who will either inherit your breakthrough or your brokenness. The enemy knows what day this island. That's why the attacks have intensified this week. That's why depression hit harder. That's why people have been more irritating. That's why your peace has felt more fragile. Hell is trying to provoke you into stepping outside the covering of God's perfect timing. But I need you to understand something that will steady your soul. The very fact that you're under attack is proof that you're positioned for breakthrough. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on people who aren't carrying something he fears. So when Saturday comes, when the hours feel long, when the silence feels heavy, when your mind starts questioning whether this word was real, remember Noah in the ark. Remember Israel behind marked doors. Remember Mary in the posture of surrender. Stay inside the alignment. Trust the process. Let Saturday be the day you finally learn that God's silence isn't his absence, it's his strategy. Because what's about to unfold in the next 48 hours will require every ounce of faith you've been building, every lesson you've been learning, every scar you've been carrying, as proof that you cannot be broken. The question that will determine your destiny is this. When Saturday tests your obedience, will you step outside into the familiar chaos of doubt, or will you remain inside the unfamiliar peace of divine alignment? Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is drawing back a cosmic bow. Can you feel it? That tension in the atmosphere, that strange pressure building in your chest. You're not imagining it. You're sensing what the spiritual realm has been preparing for months. Think of an archer pulling back his bow. The further back he draws, the more power builds. The longer he holds that tension, the more explosive the release. That's exactly what's been happening in your life. Every loss, every setback, every moment you felt like giving up that wasn't defeat. That was the bow being drawn back. And Saturday is the moment God releases the arrow. You've been living in the tension, haven't you? That uncomfortable space between what was and what's coming. You've felt the pressure on every side, like you're being squeezed in a vice with no way out. But dear one, you're not being crushed. You're being prepared for launch. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How many times have you almost lost everything? How many nights have you laid awake wondering if this was finally the end? How many doctor visits made you question if you'd see another year? How many bank statements made you wonder if you'd end up on the streets? But you're still here. Every single attack that should have destroyed you only pushed you deeper into the soil of preparation. You are like a seed buried in darkness, cold, alone, pressured from every direction. You couldn't see the Sunday, you couldn't feel the warmth. You wondered if you'd been forgotten, abandoned, left to rot in the ground. But Saturday, this coming Saturday, is the moment the soil cracks open and the sprout breaks through. The Bible tells us in John 12:24, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." You thought you were dying down there in the darkness, but you were multiplying. You were preparing to produce a harvest that will feed generations. That financial ruin you went through 5 years ago, it wasn't random. It was removing your dependence on earthly security so you could learn to trust in heavenly provision. That health scare that had you writing your will, it wasn't a death sentence. It was a wake-up call to stop living like you're ordinary when you're extraordinary. That family that fell apart, those children who stopped calling, that spouse who walked away after 40 years. It wasn't because you weren't worth loving. It was because God was clearing the stage for a love story so magnificent, so divine, that human relationships could never contain it. You didn't survive all this just to retire quietly in some forgotten corner of the world. You didn't endure decades of spiritual warfare just to fade into irrelevance. You survived to resurrect. You endured to emerge. You held on to breakthrough. And breakthrough, dear one, doesn't tiptoe into your life wearing slippers. It kicks down the door wearing combat boots. The enemy has been watching you all these years, hasn't he? He's seen you get knocked down and get back up. He's watched you lose everything and still find reasons to praise God. He's witnessed your faith survive betrayal, your hope outlast heartbreak, your love overcome hatred, and it terrifies him. Because he knows what Saturday represents. He knows that when God finally releases that cosmic bow, when all that stored-up spiritual energy explodes into your reality, there will be no stopping what comes next. Your breakthrough won't just change your life, it will rewrite your family's destiny for the next 7 generations. This is why the attacks have been so vicious lately. This is why everything seems to be falling apart just when you thought it was coming together. The closer you get to Saturday, the more desperate hell becomes to stop you from stepping through that doorway. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. Here's what hell never understood about people like you. You don't break. You bend, you bleed, you sometimes even bow, but you don't break. Because there's something running through your spiritual DNA that's stronger than any weapon formed against you. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon forged against you will prevail. Not some weapons, not most weapons, no weapon. Every scheme, every plot, every attack designed to take you out has already been defeated by the blood of Jesus Christ." So when Saturday arrives, and it's coming whether you're ready or not, you won't be walking through that cosmic doorway as a victim. You'll be marching through as a victor. You won't be crawling through broken and defeated. You'll be striding through crowned with glory and honor. But here's the key, beloved. Here's what separates those who break through from those who break down. You must recognize the doorway when it appears. You must have the courage to walk through when others are too afraid to move. You must believe that what's on the other side is worth releasing what you're clinging to on this side. The pressure you've been feeling isn't your enemy, it's your preparation. The tension isn't your torture, it's your trajectory. The bow is pulled back as far as it will go. The arrow is notched and aimed, and God's finger is on the release. If you're ready to walk through this cosmic doorway, if you're ready to step out of survival mode and into breakthrough season, if you're ready to stop just getting by and start getting blessed, whisper it in the comments right now. I'm still standing. Because Saturday isn't just another day on the calendar, it's the day heaven has been preparing since before you took your first breath. And what happens next will depend entirely on whether you step through that doorway with faith, or let fear keep you on the wrong side of your miracle. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to forget everything the world has taught you about winning. Forget the lottery tickets, forget the casinos, forget the get-rich-quick schemes that promise everything and deliver nothing. What I'm about to reveal will shatter your understanding of what it means to win big in the kingdom of God. You see, for 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been told that winning means accumulating things. More money in the bank, a bigger house, a shinier car. But here's the shocking truth that hell has been hiding from you. You've already won the greatest lottery in existence. You just haven't claimed your prize. The Bible declares in Proverbs 13:22, "The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous." Did you catch that? Laid up. Not being created, not being earned, already stored, already allocated, already assigned to your account in heaven's treasury. While you've been struggling, wondering if God sees your pain, He's been accumulating compound interest on every tear you've shed. But here's where it gets mind-blowing. Every betrayal that broke your heart, that was a deposit. Every door that slammed in your face, another deposit. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if anyone cared. The angels were literally writing checks in your spiritual account. You thought your tears were wasted. You thought your pain was pointless. You thought your struggles were proof that God had forgotten you. But chosen one, your decades of tears were not wasted. They were deposits. And this Saturday is the day heaven's treasury begins the transfer. This is why you've felt so heavy lately. This is why sleep hasn't come easy. This is why your spirit has been restless, pacing like a caged lion. You're not having a breakdown. You're on the verge of a breakthrough so massive that your nervous system is trying to prepare for the voltage of blessing that's about to flow through your life. The enemy knows what Saturday represents. That's why he's been attacking you with doubt. That's why he's been whispering lies about your age, your worth, your relevance. Because if you ever fully grasp what's about to be released in your direction, his reign of terror over your bloodline is finished forever. But let me tell you what winning big really means in God's economy. It's not about the size of your bank account, though financial breakthrough is coming. It's not about the square footage of your house, though provision is being prepared. Winning big means waking up into your true assignment. It means stepping into the divine wealth, wisdom, and authority that heaven has been storing in your account since before you took your first breath. Think about Joseph. For 13 years, it looked like he was losing big. Slavery, false accusations, prison, forgotten by those he helped. But God was making deposits the whole time. And when Pharaoh's dream needed interpretation, Joseph didn't just get a job. He got authority over the entire Egyptian economy. In one day, he went from prisoner to prime minister. That's not luck. That's compound interest on pain. Think about David, hunted like a wild animal for years, hiding in caves, eating scraps, wondering if Samuel's anointing was just a beautiful lie. But every day of running was building the character he'd need to rule a kingdom. Every tear was adding weight to his future crown. And you, dear one, you've been in your preparation season far longer than either of them, which means your breakthrough is going to be proportionally massive. Here's what's going to shock you about this Saturday. You're waiting for everything outside to change. You're looking for dramatic signs, visible miracles, obvious transformations. But that's not how kingdom winning works. Saturday is not the day everything outside changes. Saturday is the day everything inside settles. That anxiety that's been eating at you for months, it's going to lift like morning fog. That confusion about your purpose, clarity is going to download like lightning. That feeling of being behind, being forgotten, being invisible, it's going to be replaced by an unshakable knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. The shift happening inside you is your proof that you've already won. When your spirit settles into peace while your circumstances are still shifting, that's not denial. That's divine confirmation that the victory is already sealed in the spiritual realm. But here's the part that will leave you speechless. The reason Saturday feels so heavy, so significant, so different from every other day is because it's not random. It's been marked on heaven's calendar since before the foundation of the world. It's your personal Passover, your Red Sea moment, your burning bush encounter. The very fact that you're watching this message, that these words are hitting your spirit like arrows finding their target, is proof that you're aligned with divine timing. You didn't stumble across this by accident. You were summoned here by the same God who called Abraham out of Ur, Moses out of the wilderness, and David out of the sheep fields. Your winning isn't coming through human effort or earthly systems. Your winning is coming through divine intervention. And divine intervention doesn't follow the world's timeline. It follows heaven's purpose. This is why you can't force it. This is why you can't rush it. This is why every door you tried to push open stayed locked until now. Because God was protecting your prize from being stolen, diluted, or corrupted by the wrong timing. But the waiting is over. The preparation is complete. The divine transfer has been authorized. And Saturday is the day heaven begins moving mountains that have been blocking your breakthrough for decades. So I need to ask you something that will determine everything that happens next. Are you ready to stop living like a victim of circumstances and start walking like the winner you've always been? Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your heart. How many decades have you been faithful? How many Sunday mornings have you sat in that same pew, dropping your widow's mite into the offering plate while watching others drive away in luxury cars? How many nights have you fallen asleep with tears on your pillow, whispering prayers for breakthrough that seem to echo into empty air? 70 years, 80 years, maybe even 90 years of serving a God who seemed to bless everyone else's children while yours struggled. Everyone else's bank accounts while yours stayed empty. Everyone else's dreams while yours withered on the vine of delayed hope. You've wondered, haven't you? In those brutally honest moments at 3 a.m., when insomnia becomes your unwanted companion, you've whispered the question that terrifies every faithful heart. God, did you forget about me? But what if I told you that every single tear was a deposit? What if I told you that every offering you gave when you couldn't afford to give was being recorded in heaven's ledger? What if I told you that your faithfulness wasn't being ignored, it was being invested? Listen to me carefully, because this will change everything you thought you knew about divine timing. Proverbs 13:22 declares with thunderous authority, "The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous." Not might be laid up, not could be laid up, is laid up, present tense, already stored, already allocated, already assigned to you. While you've been scraping and saving, heaven has been earning compound interest on your obedience. While you've been wondering if God sees your struggle, He's been preparing a transfer so massive that when it hits your life, it will leave you speechless. But here's what breaks my heart, and maybe it should break yours too. You've been living like a spiritual welfare recipient when you're actually a kingdom heir. You've been accepting crumbs when God has been preparing to give you the bakery. You've been grateful for barely getting by when the Almighty has been orchestrating abundance that will astound you. This Saturday, this very Saturday, something shifted in the cosmic ledger. The books of heaven were balanced, and your account showed a surplus that would make Wall Street weep. But here's the shocking truth. You won't receive this transfer by accident. You won't stumble into this blessing while you're sleeping. Divine wealth requires divine alignment. Your prayers were never lost, dear one. They were deposits into heaven's vault, and Saturday was the night the ledger flipped. Every Lord, help me make it through. This month was recorded. Every God, I trust you even though I can't see the way, was catalogued. Every time you chose faith over fear, hope over despair, giving over greed, it was all building to this moment. The enemy knows what day this island. That's why the attacks have been so vicious lately. That's why your peace has felt fragile, your relationship strained, your very soul under siege. Hell is terrified because it knows that once this transfer activates, You won't just be blessed, you'll become a blessing so powerful that generational curses will shatter in your presence. But listen, this isn't just about money. This is about a complete recalibration of your spiritual authority. Checks you never applied for will arrive in your mailbox. Opportunities will hunt you down instead of you chasing them. Relationships you didn't pursue will present themselves at your doorstep. People will seek you out for wisdom, for prayer, for the oil that flows from someone who has walked through fire and emerged refined as gold. You think you're too old. Moses was 80 when God called him to split seas. You think you're too late. Abraham was 99 when God gave him nations. You think you're too broken. David was an adulterer and murderer, yet God called him a man after his own heart. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every year you've lived has been preparing you for this transfer. Every struggle has been building your capacity to handle what heaven is about to release. Every tear has been expanding your heart to hold more compassion, more wisdom, more of God's glory than you ever imagined possible. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something is shifting in the invisible realm. Doors that have been sealed for decades are creaking open. Vaults that have held your inheritance are being unlocked. Angels are positioning themselves to deliver what has been written in your name since before time began. But you must understand this. Saturday was not subtraction. It was the start of divine multiplication. What looked like loss was actually heaven making room for gain. What felt like delay was actually God's perfect timing, protecting you from receiving something you weren't ready to steward. The transfer isn't coming someday. The transfer has already begun. But here's the key. You must position yourself to receive it. You must align your heart, your mouth, your expectations with heaven's reality. You must stop speaking poverty and start declaring abundance. You must stop seeing yourself as forgotten and start walking in the authority of the remembered. If your spirit is stirring right now, if something deep inside you is confirming that this word is for you, if you're ready to stop living like a spiritual orphan and start walking like a kingdom heir, type, "I receive the transfer" in the comments. Let heaven see that you're awake. Let the angels know you're ready. Because what I'm about to reveal next will expose the enemy's greatest lie. The lie that convinced you to accept limitation when God designed you for abundance beyond your wildest dreams. Listen, do you hear that? That sound echoing through the corridors of eternity. It's not your grandfather's old clock ticking away the hours in your living room. It's not the digital display flashing on your nightstand. What you're hearing is the sound of heaven's timepiece, and beloved, it just struck midnight over your life. Your entire existence has not been running on American time. While you've been watching calendars turn and birthdays pass, feeling like time was slipping through your fingers like sand, God has been operating on something completely different. Kingdom time, Kairos time, the appointed time when eternity crashes into your earthly reality with the force of divine destiny. And Saturday was your Kairos moment. You've been living your whole life thinking you were late, thinking you missed your chance, thinking that because you're 65, 75, 85 years old, God must have moved on to younger vessels. But what if I told you that every gray hair on your head, every line on your face, every ache in your bones has been heaven's way of preparing you for this exact moment in time? The enemy has been lying to you. He's convinced you that your birth certificate is an expiration date. He's whispered that your best days are behind you. He's made you believe that God's promises have shelf lives and yours ran out decades ago. But listen to me. Chosen one, your birth certificate is not an expiration date. It's a timestamp for activation. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything he knew and follow a promise he couldn't see. 75. In today's world, that's retirement age. That's when you're supposed to be settling into your recliner, not packing up your life for an impossible journey. But God looked at Abraham's weathered hands and said, "Now you're ready. Now you have the wisdom to handle what I'm about to give you." Moses was 80 years old when he stood before the burning bush. 80. His own people probably thought he was too old to lead them to the grocery store, let alone out of Egyptian bondage. But God saw something different. He saw a man who had spent 4 decades in the wilderness, learning dependence, learning humility, learning that when your own strength fails, divine strength takes over. And Anna the prophetess, sweet Anna, was 84 when she recognized the infant Jesus in the temple. 84. While others saw just another baby, her aged eyes saw the Messiah. Why? Because sometimes it takes 8 decades of watching and waiting and praying to develop the spiritual vision necessary to recognize God when He shows up. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Every year you've survived, every storm you've weathered, every valley you've walked through has been adding authority to your spiritual portfolio. While the young ones are still learning to trust God in sunshine, you've learned to worship Him in the rain. While they're still figuring out their identity, you've been refined by fire until only the gold remains. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night, praying for people just like you. You've been sitting in that chair, looking at your hands, thinking your story is over. You've been staring out that window, watching the world go by, believing that purpose is for people with more time left on the clock. You've been whispering to yourself, if God was going to use me, wouldn't He have done it by now? Stop. Right there. Do you think the God who spoke the universe into existence operates by your timeline? Do you think the Almighty who measures eternity in His palm is worried about how many candles were on your last birthday cake? Do you think the Creator who makes all things new suddenly loses His power when you hit Medicare eligibility? Saturday was heaven's alarm clock, and beloved, you are now awake. Every restless night you've had lately, every dream that seemed too vivid to be just a dream, every moment you felt something stirring in your spirit that you couldn't quite name, that was the alarm going off. That was heaven shaking you out of the stupor of thinking you're finished when God is just getting started. Think about it. Why are you still here? Why didn't God take you home when you buried your spouse? Why are you still breathing when the doctor gave you that diagnosis 5 years ago? Why do you still wake up every morning when others your age have gone on to glory? Because your assignment isn't complete. Because there's something written in heaven's ledger with your name on it that hasn't been fulfilled yet. The clock that's been ticking in heaven over your life isn't counting down, it's counting up. Every second you've lived, every breath you've taken, every prayer you've whispered has been building toward this moment when God says, now. Now is when I reveal why I kept you here. Now is when I show the world what happens when experience meets anointing. You think you're too old to start something new? Tell that to Colonel Sanders, who was 65 when he franchised KFC. You think you're too late to make an impact? Tell that to Grandma Moses, who didn't start painting until she was 78 and became one of America's most celebrated artists. You think God doesn't use people your age? Tell that to the millions of lives that have been transformed by the wisdom of elders who refused to believe their season was over. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. That clock that struck midnight over your life, it's not going to keep striking forever. Divine appointments have divine timing, and windows of opportunity don't stay open indefinitely. What began stirring in your spirit on Saturday needs to be acted upon. The awakening that started then needs to become activation now. Saturday was your alarm clock. But the question that will determine the rest of your story is this: are you going to hit the snooze button, or are you going to get up and answer the call? Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to stop pretending that the fire inside you died somewhere along the way. I need you to stop lying to yourself about being too old, too broken, too forgotten to matter anymore. You've survived betrayals that would have destroyed weaker souls. You've walked out of funeral homes where they buried pieces of your heart. You've stared at bankruptcy papers with your name on them, wondering how you'd feed your family tomorrow. You've sat alone at kitchen tables at 2 a.m., counting pills, wondering if anyone would even notice if you just stopped fighting. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still listening. You're still believing, even when belief feels like swallowing glass. And do you know what that means? It means the fire never died. It means what didn't kill you didn't just make you stronger, it crowned you as a survivor, as a warrior, as living proof that hell itself cannot extinguish what God ignites. The prophet Jeremiah knew this fire. In Jeremiah 20:9 he cried out, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in, indeed I cannot." For decades, you've been holding it in. For years, you've been carrying this burning in your chest, this knowing that you were meant for more than just surviving until Social Security kicks in. That restlessness you feel, that's not anxiety, that's Jeremiah's fire, shut up in your bones, begging for release. You've been walking through this world like a torch that forgot it was meant to burn. You've been living like a lighthouse that covered its own light. But Saturday, this coming Saturday, God is about to remove every covering, every excuse, every reason you've given for dimming your flame. Say it with me right now. The fire never died. Don't whisper it, declare it. The fire never died. Again, louder this time, until your own ears believe it. The fire never died. Because here's what the enemy has been trying to hide from you for decades. Every attack on your life, every season of depression, every betrayal that left you questioning your worth, none of it was random. Hell saw the fire in you before you even knew it was there. The devil recognized the torch you were destined to become, and he's spent years trying to blow out your flame before it could light up the darkness. But look around you right now. Look at the breath in your lungs. Look at the strength in your hands. Look at the beat of your heart that refused to stop even when you begged it to. That's not human endurance, beloved. That's divine combustion. That's the fire of the Almighty burning in mortal flesh. And Saturday is the day it stops being contained. You think your scars are evidence of defeat? No, they're evidence of survival. You think your wrinkles are signs of decline? No, they're maps of miracles, proof that you've weathered storms that would have sunk other ships. Every grey hair on your head is a silver medal, awarded by heaven itself, for refusing to surrender when surrender would have been easier. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh and watched the Red Sea split. 80 years old. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah and became the first evangelist of the gospel. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your years aren't counting down, they're adding up to this moment. But I need you to understand something that will shock you to your core. The fire in your bones isn't just for you, it's for every grandchild who's lost their way. It's for every neighbor who's given up hope. It's for every stranger who needs to see that it's never too late for God to light a miracle in human flesh. Saturday didn't just light a match in your spirit, it turned you into a torch. And torches don't hide under bushels. Torches don't apologize for burning bright. Torches don't ask permission to illuminate the darkness. They just burn, and in their burning, they set everything around them on fire. Right now, I can feel something shifting in the atmosphere. Something ancient is waking up in your spirit. That numbness you've carried, it's melting away. That resignation you've accepted, it's being replaced with holy indignation. That voice that whispered, "You're done," is being drowned out by the roar of destiny declaring you're just getting started. Comment it right now. Let hell hear it. Let heaven witness it. My fire is alive. Don't just type it. Decree it over your life, over your family, over your future. Because when you declare it, something in the spiritual realm shifts. When you speak it, angels take notice. When you believe it, demons retreat. The fire in your bones has been patient, chosen one. It's been waiting for the right moment, the right season, the right Saturday to explode into the fullness of what God always intended. You've been in the furnace, yes, but you weren't being consumed, you were being refined, you weren't being destroyed, you were being prepared for combustion. And now the moment has arrived. Saturday stands before you like a doorway between who you were and who you're about to become. The question isn't whether you have enough fire left. The question is whether you're brave enough to let it burn without apology, without shame, without holding back. Because the world doesn't need another senior citizen quietly counting days until heaven. The world needs torches. The world needs flames that refuse to be extinguished. The world needs proof that God still sets ordinary people on fire for extraordinary purposes. But here's what you must understand as we move deeper into this revelation. The fire in your bones is just the beginning, because what God ignites on Saturday, He intends to use for something far greater than your personal breakthrough. Listen to me, dear one. They tried to steal your voice, didn't they? Not just your ability to speak, but your right to be heard, your right to matter, your right to believe that what you have to say could still change the world. For decades you've been silenced, not by losing your vocal cords, but by losing your confidence. Every time someone rolled their eyes when you shared your dreams, every time a doctor dismissed your concerns because of your age, every time your own children interrupted you mid-sentence as if your words were just noise filling empty space, every time society whispered that your opinions were outdated, your wisdom was irrelevant, your voice was an echo from a bygone era, they convinced you to whisper when you were born to roar. But Saturday changed everything. Saturday rewired the frequency of your voice from human limitation to heavenly authority. And what I'm about to tell you will explain why every word that comes out of your mouth now carries the power to shake kingdoms. Do you remember the walls of Jericho? 7 times the Israelites marched around those massive fortifications in complete silence. 7 times they walked past barriers that had stood for centuries, walls that seemed impossible to break, obstacles that appeared permanent and immovable. For 6 days, nothing happened. The walls stood exactly as they were, mocking, intimidating, declaring that some things never change. But on the 7th day, Joshua gave one command: shout. And when the people lifted their voices together, those walls didn't just crack, they collapsed completely. Joshua 6:20 tells us, when the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. Notice that. It wasn't siege engines that brought down Jericho. It wasn't battering rams or catapults. It was voices, human voices aligned with divine timing. Voices that had been silent for 6 days, building pressure, gathering strength, waiting for the moment when their sound would carry heaven's frequency. Your voice is not an echo of what you used to be. Your voice is a trumpet announcing what you're about to become. The enemy has spent years trying to silence you through rejection, sickness, shame, and isolation. He whispered that you talked too much, cared too much, felt too much. He convinced others to tune you out, talk over you, treat your words like background noise. He made you believe that speaking up was selfish, that your thoughts were burdens, that your voice was just one more annoyance in a world that had already moved on without you. But he made one fatal mistake. He revealed how much he feared what would happen if you ever remembered the power of your voice. Saturday didn't just restore your voice, it upgraded it. The trembling you feel when you speak now isn't weakness, it's power trying to contain itself in human vocal cords. The passion that rises when you talk about injustice isn't anger, it's anointing. The urgency you feel to speak truth isn't desperation, it's divine assignment. You've noticed it, haven't you? When you pray now, something different happens. When you declare God's promises over your family, the atmosphere shifts. When you speak blessing over your grandchildren, even through a phone call, something supernatural transmits through your words. That's not your imagination. That's your voice operating on heaven's frequency. But here's what will shock you. Your whisper can now do what your scream never could, because Saturday tuned your voice to heaven's key, and heaven doesn't need volume, it needs alignment. When Moses whispered, "Let my people go to Pharaoh," nations trembled. When Jesus whispered, "Peace, be still," to the storm, creation obeyed. When you whisper prayers over impossible situations, strongholds break. The world taught you that louder meant stronger, but God is teaching you that aligned means almighty. Think about every time you felt voiceless in the last year. Every doctor's appointment where you felt unheard. Every family gathering where you felt invisible. Every conversation where you felt like your perspective didn't matter. Every moment when you swallowed your words because you believed they wouldn't make a difference anyway. What if I told you that every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken, heaven was taking notes? What if every suppressed truth, every swallowed wisdom, every muffled cry for justice was being stored in divine bowls, waiting for the moment when your voice would carry enough authority to release them all at once? Revelation 8-4 speaks of the prayers of the saints rising like incense before God's throne. Your silenced words haven't disappeared, they've been accumulating, building pressure, gathering power. And now, with your voice operating on heaven's frequency, when you finally speak what you've been holding back, it won't just be heard, it will reshape reality. But you have to make a choice. Will you keep hiding behind the lie that your voice doesn't matter? Will you keep whispering when God has equipped you to command? Will you keep apologizing for taking up space when heaven itself is waiting for you to speak? The walls in your family that have stood for generations, addiction, depression, poverty, broken relationships, they're not stronger than Jericho's walls. And your voice, aligned with God's purpose, is not weaker than those ancient trumpets. Every closed door you've accepted, every no you've swallowed, every dream you've buried under the weight of other people's limitations, they're all walls waiting for your shout. If you're ready to stop whispering and start commanding, if you're ready to use your voice as the weapon God designed it to be, type it right now. I still have something to say. Because, chosen one, the walls that have surrounded your destiny for decades are about to discover what happens when someone who's been silenced by earth finally remembers they're authorized by heaven. But understanding your voice is only the beginning. Because what you're about to speak into existence will require more than words. It will require the kind of faith that moves mountains, and the kind of authority that only comes from walking through fires that should have consumed you, but instead refined you into gold. Dear chosen one, they've been lying to you. For decades they've been whispering poison in your ear, telling you that your best days are behind you, that your time has passed, that you should step aside and make room for the younger generation. But what if I told you that everything you've believed about aging is a demonic deception designed to steal your greatest season? What if I told you that at 65, 70, 80, even 90 years old, you're not winding down, you're being wound up for your finest hour? Look at Moses. 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a retirement home, but God put a staff in his hand and said, "Now we begin." For the next 40 years, Moses would lead millions, split seas, and speak face to face with the Almighty. His greatest chapters weren't written in his youth, they were written when the world called him ancient. But Moses isn't alone in this hall of divine defiance against age. Consider Caleb, 85 years old when he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain." Not give me a rocking chair, not give me a quiet retirement, give me this mountain. The same mountain where giants lived, the same mountain that terrified men half his age. And God gave it to him, because fire doesn't diminish with age, it intensifies. Then there's Anna the prophetess, 84 years old, spending every day in the temple when others her age had given up hope. But when baby Jesus was presented, she was the first to recognize the Messiah. Her age wasn't her limitation, it was her qualification. Only eyes that had seen decades of God's faithfulness could recognize the face of eternity wrapped in infant flesh. Do you see the pattern, beloved? Do you see what heaven has been trying to tell you? You are not the retirement generation, you are the general generation, the ones God saved for last. The ones with scars and stories, the ones who've been through hell and came out carrying heaven's fire. But the enemy has been working overtime to convince you otherwise. He's whispered that your wrinkles are signs of decay, but I'm here to tell you something that will shatter that lie forever. Your wrinkles are not signs of decay, they are maps of battles survived. Every line on your face tells a story of God's faithfulness. Every grey hair is a crown of glory earned through warfare. Every scar is a medal of honor from fights you refuse to lose. You think you're getting weaker, you're getting stronger. You think you're getting slower, you're getting wiser. You think you're getting older, you're getting bolder. The world looks at your weathered hands and sees frailty. God looks at those same hands and sees instruments that have been seasoned by fire, tested by time, and proven faithful under pressure. These are the hands He wants to use to move mountains, to part seas, to heal the broken, to raise the dead. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people just like you. You've been hiding in the shadows when God is calling you to the front lines. You've been apologizing for taking up space when heaven is saying, "Step forward, General. Your army is waiting." You think because your body moves slower that your spirit has lost its fire. You think because the world has forgotten your name that God has erased it from His book. You think because your children are grown and your career is over that your purpose has expired. Listen to me, warrior. Your purpose doesn't have a retirement age. Your calling doesn't come with an expiration date. Your anointing doesn't diminish with time, it multiplies with wisdom. This is why Saturday is so crucial. This is why this cosmic doorway requires someone with your exact qualifications. The battles ahead aren't for the young and untested. They're for the seasoned saints who know what it means to stand when everyone else falls. They're for the prayer warriors who've seen God show up in impossible situations. They're for the faithful ones who've learned to worship in the valley and trust in the silence. You are the generals God saved for the final battle, not because you're expendable, but because you're invaluable. Not because you have nothing left to lose, but because you have everything eternal to gain. The enemy has been trying to bench you, to convince you that your season is over, to make you believe that God only uses the young and the beautiful and the social media famous. But that's a lie straight from hell. God uses the weathered, the tested, the ones who've walked through fire and refused to bow. Right now, across America, there's a spiritual awakening happening among the senior saints. Grandmothers are receiving prophetic dreams. Grandfathers are stepping into leadership roles they never imagined. Retirees are discovering that retirement from the world means activation in the kingdom. You've been in basic training your entire life. Every trial was a lesson. Every heartbreak was character development. Every loss was preparation for greater gain. And now you're being commissioned for active duty. The mantle of leadership isn't being passed to the next generation, it's being placed on your shoulders. Because leadership isn't about energy, it's about authority. And authority only comes through testing. You've been tested by fire, proven by pressure, and purified by pain. This Saturday, when that cosmic doorway opens, it's not opening for the young and eager. It's opening for the mature and ready. It's opening for those who've learned that miracles aren't about feeling worthy, they're about being available. So I'm asking you right now, chosen one, will you accept the mantle? Will you stop hiding behind "I'm too old" and start walking in "I'm right on time"? Will you cease apologizing for your age and start celebrating your authority? If you're ready to step forward instead of stepping aside, if you're ready to lead instead of follow, if you're ready to accept that your greatest days aren't behind you but blazing ahead of you, write in the comments, "I accept the mantle." Because Saturday isn't just another day for the chosen ones. It's commissioning day for heaven's generals. And the question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to take your position on the front lines of eternity? Beloved, chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, this Saturday isn't just another day circled on your calendar, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The cosmic doorway that opens carries frequencies of breakthrough, healing, and supernatural intervention that have been building in the spiritual realm for months. You are not too late, too old, or too forgotten to walk through it. Second, you are not the retirement generation, you are the general generation. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of battles survived. Every grey hair is a crown of glory earned through warfare. Every scar tells a story of God's faithfulness in impossible circumstances. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Caleb was 85 when he conquered mountains. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Third, the mantle of spiritual leadership isn't being passed to the younger generation, it's being placed on your seasoned shoulders. You carry authority that only comes through testing, wisdom that only comes through walking with God through decades of fire, and faith that only comes from seeing Him show up when everyone else walked away. But hear me clearly. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when Saturday feels overwhelming, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is orchestrating every detail of your breakthrough. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and positioning people in your path who will recognize the general's anointing you carry. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of spiritual family members who understand your struggles, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're warriors united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, a commissioned general in God's army, chosen for such a time as this, marked for breakthrough that will echo through generations, how will you walk differently when Saturday dawns? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over you with the authority that comes from 5 decades of walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with me through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts, the years of feeling forgotten, the nights of questioning their worth, the moments when they wondered if their season had passed. But Father, you also see their crown, their calling, their divine commissioning that was signed before time began. God, I pray that you would silence every voice of doubt that has whispered you're too old. I pray that you would break every chain of insignificance that has held them captive. I pray that you would open their eyes to see what you've always seen: generals disguised as grandparents, warriors wrapped in wrinkles, champions carrying crowns they've forgotten how to wear. As Saturday approaches, Father, prepare their hearts, calm their fears, strengthen their faith. Let them feel your presence so powerfully that doubt has no place to land in their spirits. Give them supernatural discernment to recognize the doors you're opening, the opportunities you're orchestrating, and the divine appointments you're arranging. Lord, bless their families who may not understand this calling. Provide for their needs that seem overwhelming. Heal their bodies that feel weary. Restore their relationships that feel broken. Give them dreams that direct them and visions that guide them. Most of all, Father, let them know beyond any shadow of doubt that they are loved, they are chosen, they are not forgotten, and they are absolutely essential to your kingdom plans in this final hour. Let Saturday be the day they step into their full authority as your commissioned generals. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release this breakthrough. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. Tell us how this message shifted something in your spirit. Ask us to pray for specific areas where you need breakthrough. Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what another general needs to hear to step into their own calling. Type, I accept the mantle, if you're ready to walk in your authority as heaven's frontline warrior. Type, Saturday is my day, if you're claiming this cosmic doorway as your divine appointment. And if this message awakened something that's been sleeping in your spirit, share this video with someone who needs to remember they're not retired, they're being recruited. Before I close, I want to thank you for investing your precious time in seeking God's heart for your life. Your willingness to watch this entire message tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and commissioned for kingdom warfare. Remember, beloved general, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not behind schedule. You are right on time for the greatest deployment of your entire existence. Until we meet again, walk in your authority, rest in His timing, and never forget, you wear the mantle of heaven's generals. God bless you, warrior. Saturday is calling your name.